Just give it a second. It's going live. Okay, and we are on. Perfect.
Great.
We got 14 people connected now. It's stream. You guys are good. Perfect.
You were breaking up a little bit.
You said we're
Yeah,
good?
it's because I had YouTube on the back end, actually. Sorry about that.
No
So
problem.
we're good. Let me make you host.
How many are in the queue?
14 at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, you are the host, Dwayne, so you're good to go.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'll share the recording when it's done.
Great.
Bye now.
See you later.
Okay.
If my audio goes out, just give my attention and I'll switch over to I guess my hearing aids.
Okay. I hear you fine.
Yeah, I don't know why it's going off and on, but it's there now. Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Dwayne Rose. I'm the Division Chief in the H Directorate for Recruiting and Retention. One of the ways we could be most helpful in meeting our objectives to get new and retain current members is to offer training that will support the knowledge that our HR team really needs, and that's why we're here. Today's training is on new members, onboarding, and beyond. This is our third of three topics for this year, and this is our final topic for this year as well. Chances are good we'll probably have more next year. I hope you've been able to take advantage of these. We've been getting pretty good feedback on them. I would just mention we've redid our groupings. The groupings stayed the same, but we had to change to the new names and new district numbers. Basically we're using Eastern area, Heartland, and Pacific areas. In a few minutes, you'll see what we mean by onboarding and beyond. We've evolved to see the needs beyond just recruiting, and that's what this session is about. In the past, we pretty much thought we were done when we recruited a member. That was a great start, but as Rio Annis will share with you, there's so much more that goes into taking a prospect and turning them into an engaged, successful, and satisfied member of our team. I just would mention the reason we are using YouTube to deliver this to you is sometimes some of our sessions have too many participants for Zoom to support. When we are sending the presentation to you on YouTube, we can train more people auxiliary wide in less time. But we do regret we don't have the same interaction between presenter and participants. But as I'm sure you know from Zoom experiences, Zoom gets a bit less effective the larger the group is and the smaller the picture is of each attendee and the multiple screens that are used. I would give you a reminder, this presentation will be recorded. The same link that you used to access the session tonight will take you to it whenever you like. And as with any YouTube, you can pause, you can rewind, and you can fast forward. But we still welcome your suggestions, your questions, and we really love hearing from you to tell us how we did. So let's get underway. Your presenter is Rio Annis. He is a branch chief in the H Directorate in my division. He is also a division commander. He's a district staff officer for human resources. He's also a staff officer in the Division for Human Resources. He's a flotilla staff officer, and he's also a flotilla staff officer for marine safety, just in case he gets bored. I share these same offices with him, except for the last one. But anyway, welcome again, and let's get started.
Okay. Okay. As Wayne mentioned, we're in our third topic of this year, and this is the new member onboarding and beyond. So we need to, be able to take care of our new members once they, come on board and they get their new number. And, we'll want to keep them engaged in the process. So getting, your new member, through the onboarding process, does it matter? Well, yes, it absolutely does. When we get a new member in, if we are getting them through their whole, process, once they've gotten their, number, and maybe even a little bit before they get their enrollment ID number, it's really critical. The more we can keep them engaged and involved with activities, the more fulfilling it's going to be for them and for us ultimately. We know that too many times we've had members come into the auxiliary and haven't really gotten the attention or the assistance they needed. And then within a year, we wind up losing that member. So onboarding is a critical phase for that new member. Now, we should not assume that a new member should be a self-starter, completely able to navigate their way on their own through this process. We know that getting through some of these different systems can be, quite a task. And if we merely just give this new member a link and say, here, go do it, they're going to be kind of frustrated and they may not last long. This process really requires our full attention and guidance from the leadership and the mentor or mentors. The new member and mentor, whoever that person might be, need to walk through this phase together. So Dwayne already, kind of welcomed you here, but again, the HR position is one of our most valuable positions of all other bridge staff, since you are the lifeblood of the auxiliary. Without HR, there are no members. So you are mission critical. And we are there for our members from the beginning, middle, and the end of their service. And much like the private sector HR, we assist our workers with almost all of their employment needs. And you can, probably go back to some of your own experiences where, you shared that with the HR person because they were like your first contact you had. So you tend to kind of go back to them. You had a little bit of that familiarity. So you can always go ask them something. And yeah, we are the go-to people for members who will ask sometimes, how do I do this? Whatever that it is. Even if it isn't something particularly in our own direct function, we should always help or direct them to assistance. Consider yourself unofficial but vital mentor. So in a way, we are a mentor, even though we might not be the officially assigned mentor for this new person. And remember, We are Team Coast Guard, Semper Paratus. So presentation note here, as Dwayne mentioned, we're trying to do some standardized training. So the content of this training is to promote efficient and correct nationwide standard practices throughout all our flotillas for the tasks that we commonly perform. And it's intended to offer the district HR officers basic vetted training materials for new officers and refresh current ones so that they don't have to create a program themselves. You can basically use this program. However, one thing we do understand is there are differences in some practices between districts and DIROPs. And in these instances, you should always consult your chain of leadership for direction and questions. So what's the next step? So you got a new prospects application submitted. Now what do? Well, we know it's going to take some time for them to get their employee ID number. So we got to keep that new member active until the enrollment notice received. We got to keep them really active. It's really critical during this time frame. So invite them to events or missions, whatever that might be. You might be going out to do a public affairs, have them show up and see how you relate to the public, how you talk about boating safety, and how you try to engage, people maybe to join the auxiliary. Or it could be, going out to a lake somewhere when you're doing vessel exams. They can see how you do that. This might also pique their interest in getting involved with various programs. So keep them involved in flotilla meetings. This is where they can meet other members and develop a relationship with them, find out what they do, what's their interest, and maybe that's a person they could team up with to learn how to do that job. Provide training related to their interests. Some of the training can be done without an employee ID number. You can always backdate some of this. So say they are interested in vessel exams. They could tag along and they could learn how to do it. And that might be some of the mentored exams that you could use once they get their enrollment ID number. So, what else can you do? You can think of some of your own ideas, but the main thing is trying to keep them involved. But once they get their employment ID number, there's so much more. And that's why onboarding is even more critical. So what we're going to cover is the basic orientation, new member essentials, accessing aux data 2 and aux officer directory, member profile changes, uniforms and their procurement, Coast Guard exchange, and a Coast Guard auxiliary association. And then that critical training that's needed up front, the new member training, core and DQC2 and others, mission qualifications and requirements, new member mentoring and individual development plan. And then some other items we'll talk about is how do we, once they've got their training done, how do we get them changed from AP status to BQ status? How do they get their ID cards? And then new member reports. Reports we know are very important. We need to have all members turn in their hours for whatever they're doing, missions and such. So we need to kind of show that new member how to do that. So introduce two important FSOs, and that would be the member training officer and IS. These two positions are very important once the new member joins the organization. And it will help them get through some of their various tasks they have to do in their first 9 months. Or you can assign a mentor, someone who's very knowledgeable in all aspects. New member certificate. Now they should get one sent from DIROCs. I know in District 9 Central, Great Lakes, our DIROCs will send out an email, welcome to the auxiliary. And there'll be an emailed copy of this new member certificate. But they also put the original hard copy in mail that the new member will receive. We want to have the new member go through the pledge or the oath. Provide instruction to obtain a password to the member zone, Aux Data 2 and Aux Directory, and how to navigate our systems. We want to review opportunities and options, help them start planning how to get there, whatever their interest might be, what their motivation is, what mission would they like to get involved with, and assist the member with obtaining uniforms. That's really an important area. So I mentioned the new member certificate. So the new members will get a certificate. It looks like this. And make sure, as a flotilla commander or HR person, make sure when your new member has joined that they actually receive this certificate. There could have been a mix-up that might not have gotten sent out. Could have been a mailing issue. We don't know, but this is important. We want to make sure that they are welcomed and get this certificate. Once they've got their ID number, they're officially joined, and they're at your flotilla meeting. Let's do the new member pledge. Now, this is in the Aux manual. I'm sure some of you have kind of read through this before. Now, in my division, I've kind of made this a little bit personal for the new member. I've taken a pledge, put it on a background of, auxiliary symbol there, and I fill in the member's name, and they get to keep this after we've read through their pledge. So as I mentioned, we need to help them get through Aux Data 2 and Aux Directory. And we know how difficult Aux Data 2 can be to make entries, for somebody new who's just getting involved with this. But we still want to make sure that they're able to log in and get set up with it. And you know what the link is for that site. The new member will get something from Aux Directory with their ID number, how they log in, but they need to have some help with doing that, getting to the right location, and going through it properly. The same with the Aux Directory. Getting set up in that is also important. This password seems to correlate with the Moodle classroom. So it's important to have this set up right. Now, if after the new member has joined, there's some change that needs to be made in their profile, it might be a skills task code, or it could be something regarding their address or whatever. Help them get through that. They obviously won't be proficient in Aux Data 2 upon just joining. So they need to work with the IS person, help them get this done. Suggest that they do use this form initially, fill it out, and that way the IS person can be sure that the information that they're requesting to be made or changed is done correctly. New member uniforms. Wow. New members, they really need assistance with obtaining uniforms and deciding which ones to start with. And this can be quite frustrating for a new member. They don't know where to go. They don't know what kind of uniform and all the different aspects of the uniform. What types of things they need to have to go with the TROPS uniform. A good guide is in the H Directorate. It's a new electronic uniform interactive guide, but there's also an awards ribbon tool that's coming soon. And remember, as members of the auxiliary, we have a privilege of wearing U.S. Coast Guard uniforms with distinctive auxiliary insignia. And when we're in public, those we help do not distinguish usually between active duty, reserve, or volunteers. We are the Coast Guard when we're out in public. And it's our responsibility to understand all the components of the Coast Guard auxiliary uniform. The new members should be working with their mentor and flotilla leaders to help them ensure that they understand what uniforms that they'll need and how to properly wear them. And in the H Directorate, you can actually click on this little booklet, your uniform guide, and it'll take you to the latest updates regarding uniform. And remember, it's our responsibility to properly represent the United States Coast Guard, especially when we're in uniform. So when you get to the H Directorate site, and I've got the link here, and you go to Interactive Uniform Guide, this is basically what you'll see. And this is very helpful. A lot of good information here. And on one of the gray tabs, it'll be the most utilized uniforms. And along that drop down, you'll have various types of uniforms to click on. Here's the tropical blue. Now I realize this print is really small. It's not meant for us to read here on this PowerPoint. This is just to show you what you expect to see if you go to that site. And of course, the picture here is showing the combination cap, but you can also get the garrison cap. It's not necessary to have a combination cap. And that is described in the upper right corner there. And again, under the most utilized uniforms, you can click on the ODU operational and lots of descriptive information there for the uniform. The same with the alternative work uniform. And then there's a section in that same area of the interactive uniform guide for procurement. Where do we go to get the uniforms? And I'm going to just look a little bit at the Coast Guard Exchange, which you can see there's also the Auxiliary Center, AUXN. You can get flight suits, AWU shirts, alternative work uniform, and the chaplain's polo. So again, you really need to work with your new member and show them these sites. It'd be good to sit down with them if they have their own computer or you bring one along and you walk through this with them and help them get set up. Once you get to the Coast Guard Exchange site, you need to set up your account here. And you got to remember to check the auxiliary box when they come to it and add their employee ID number. And that'll help them get into the system here to order uniforms through the Coast Guard Exchange site. To help my members and my flotilla, I made a shopping cart within the Coast Guard Exchange. One for the trops. So I have all the items listed there so they can see the picture, a little bit of a description. Pricing can change, but this kind of gives them an idea of what the components are of the uniform. I did the same in a different method for the ODUs, so they can have an idea what that's like. Coast Guard Auxiliary Association. So as members, we're also members of the AUX Association, but what is it? The Auxiliary Association is the official authorized business arm of the auxiliary. It's 501c3, charitable nonprofit, and it manages the business and financial affairs of the auxiliary. It holds trademarks and licenses for the auxiliary name and logos, receives and administers donations, grants, sponsorships that benefit the auxiliary. Essentially, while the auxiliary is a uniform volunteer organization that works alongside the Coast Guard, the association is our financial and business arm. Emergency assistance funds or partnerships in special cases for members facing hardship after disasters. The AUXA Auxiliary Association benefits now extend to members' immediate family, and there's many benefits. And take an opportunity to check them out. Show the new member that. It operates the Coast Guard Auxiliary Center, the AUXCENT, for uniforms, insignia, and equipment, often at a discount. And profits go back to the AUXA for support of the auxiliary. So here you have the website, phone number, and the address. New member training. So here's another important component when we get the new member on board. A good start, the H Directorate, under the new member info section. And I have the link there for that. And you want to assist in the completion of required training, which includes core and BQC2. And this too can be quite frustrating for a new member. I once, when I was new, had somebody say, oh, just go to Moodle. I had no idea what a Moodle was. So we need to kind of like work through this with the new members, show them how to get there, how to log in, what courses to take, because it's not an easy one step. You kind of have to go through a couple different screens to get to it. And they need to have an approved safe voting course, unless you already possess that and it's been recorded on the application. If working in operations, emergency management, and certain leadership roles, then FEMA courses are requirements, the ICS 100 and 700, and risk management. So now is a good time to facilitate a mentor, someone with knowledge of the qualifications or activities the new member desires. You know, if they want to be crew member, if you've got an experienced crew member, set them up with that person as a mentor. Same with, you know, vessel exam or program visit or instructor, you know, any of those. If you've got someone who's very knowledgeable, kind of an expert in that area, they make a very good mentor on that. It'd be a good idea to set up a flotilla spreadsheet to track each member's progress. So we can see, okay, what training have they completed? What do they still need to get done? And kind of help them stay on task to get those things accomplished. We want to guide the recruit on filling their 7029s and mission reports. And they can work with the IS on that. Again, in the H Directorate, they have a lot of these icons or little booklets or clipboards. And this here has the auxiliary terms. It also has a new member, you know, involvement plan. And this is kind of a good guide to track members' progress. Still within that H Directorate site, you've got core training icon there, and it will take you to that training for all the core training courses. And there's 7 of those, with the one that is the ethics, that is a one-time only course. And each course requires an enrollment key, and it is available on the Training Directorate website pretty easily to get at that. But this little icon, if you click on that, will take you to, you know, the courses. It'll show you, you know, where to go. It has a link to get there, and it's pretty helpful. Same thing with the BQC2. It has that little clipboard there. So once you click on that, it'll take you there. And every new member is required to complete the BQC2 training. And it's designed to provide knowledge of the auxiliary, you know, our role within Team Coast Guard and our missions and programs. It also prepares you for leadership positions of greater responsibility. And it's needed to achieve BQ status, and a great orientation to a key resource, the auxiliary manual. So once you get through that icon there, one of the links will take you here to the auxiliary classroom. But if it didn't, this link here will bring you to the same location. And this is where we get the new member to sign up. And if this is the first time here and you don't have an account, please click on the button below. Well, we're actually going to click on that button below, and this is where it will have them log in using their same login and password as Aux Directory. So that's a nice feature of that. They don't have to create another login. The 2 should be enough. And just in case they've been in it for a while and a session timed out, screen will be a little different here. We don't want that to be confusing to the new member. All they have to do is click on, well, I have the arrow down there, sign in with Aux, USCG Aux, and it will take them right back to their login again, rather than trying to put in a username and password. That part does not work. So required training is vital to the success of a member. It's mandatory for a reason, and the sooner it's done, members possess knowledge they need. Members that are slow to obtain tend to be less engaged or active and less satisfied with the auxiliary. So we really need to help them get through this so that they can feel, engaged and satisfied with the auxiliary. We certainly need to work with this person so that they don't just sit on the sidelines and never really get involved. Most important attribute for a new member, can-do attitude. We can teach the needed skills, but they need to bring the desire to want to learn, want to do it. So if we show them that we care and that we're willing to help them step by step, all they have to do is bring the attitude to do the same. Many districts reward members that achieve their required training in less than 30 days. And really, this required training is not that hard. Some members can do it within a week. I've had someone do it over a whole weekend. So it can be done. So in my district, our Commodore will give out a challenge coin for new members that get their training done within 30 days. So you might check with your district and see, what might be available as a kind of a reward for doing that. Continuing in that H Directorate site, like I said, there's a lot of good information there. Once they've gotten through their core training, their BQC2, and they're ready to start training on some other aspect of, mission work, you go to any of these icons here, and it gives a very good description. It'll show you the requirements. It will show you, it'll have a link that'll take you straight to it. So it's really good. Just for example, I chose a vessel examiner, I believe, and it will show you the ribbon that the member can earn for doing that. It shows the prerequisites, it shows their work requirements, and a link to the National Testing Center. So each icon will be descriptive like that. And here's a few more, such as culinary services or health services or instructor. So there's lots of these in there, depending on what the new member, what their goals are, what their desires are. Some qualifications might require additional training to complete the requirements. So Intro to Risk Management, another icon that's within the H Directorate site. This will be a requirement, some of those. So this is easy to click on that and they can get through that course there. FEMA independent study courses can be found in the Training Directorate. The ICS 100 and ICS 700 are the most common requirements. And this is a link that you'll be able to get there. And this is in the Training Directorate. And this is something that, of course, you can have the new member do before they even get their enrollment ID number, because this is outside of the auxiliary training. This new member can do this training. The only thing they need to do is register within the FEMA courses, and the test completion will be sent to their email with that registration. So once they get their employee ID number here, the auxiliary, we can then transfer and upload their certificates and their training time for completing that. New member mentoring and individual development plan. Now, of course, this training topic here that I'm running through is meant to be, resources. Where do you find information? How do you get to it? And, what is available out there so that you can have those tools ready. This is not meant to be a total mentoring course, although there is one that we have, and we will be working on that. That is the how do you mentor somebody? So I'm just providing the resources of the things that you'll want to be aware of in case you weren't. So a great resource for mentoring as a new member is a mentoring guide, and that's a very long link there, but that is available to go to for that. Mentoring is a traditional method for orienting and training those new to the Coast Guard Auxiliary, as well as a valuable means for supporting the development, even accelerating their professional growth. Experienced employees, middle managers, and executives. So this is not something that is strictly used by the auxiliary or the Coast Guard. Many businesses out in the world work with mentoring programs. Now, the mentoring guide itself is a 20-page document, which includes an individual development plan. So, and I put the link on there for that too. Tracking the training. I got this tracking form from the DSO in District 13, and I thought this was really nice. Pretty comprehensive, but all on one page. And you can check all of their core training on this, their BQC2, see what they've accomplished, when they accomplished it, and it's a good way to keep that member on track for what's needed. And let's remember, leadership training is also very important, especially, for future growth of this member and your flotilla. And this leadership training link here is also in the H Directorate. And when you click on that, it will take you, just like it did with the vessel exam, it'll show you the prerequisites, work requirements, and there's also a link for additional information on it. And we know that there's 5 levels of this training, and basic level 1 is pretty good for, those staff officers and flotilla commanders. So let's keep that in mind. We always want to, help new members, grow within our flotillas so that they can be our future leaders. Status change. So we've got somebody now who's completed their core training, and we know that initially and every 5 years they need to do that. So they've done it, the first time over, they've got their BQC done, and they have a completed, approved boating safety certificate. So we can move them from AP status to BQ status. And IQ is, if you didn't know, is the same as BQ, it's just without the boating safety course. So verify with your chain of leadership for the correct method of getting AP to BQ qualification change made. There might be a paper form or an online form with submission to IS. I know in my District 9, on our District 9 website, under Human Resource section, for member resources, we've got an easy online form that the flotilla commander can fill out, hit submit, and it goes straight to the upper chain of IS to get this change made. Some occasions you might need to submit proof of core BQC requirements, but usually not, because it does auto fill into the aux data 2 system, so it should be there easy to see. But again, verify with your chain of leadership for your correct method of getting the changes made, and especially if you're now going from IQ to BQ. So the person was IQ absent the boating safety certificate, but now they've completed that and they have it. So what process do you need to do to get them from IQ to BQ? So check that out. And they might need to submit a copy of that certificate at that time. ID cards. So this also is something that's different between districts. There is no specific form via the national level. These are, handled in various methods. Some districts might use a paper form, some are online, some are email, but check with your chain of leadership. Again, in my District 9, it's pretty easy. Our own members can go into our District 9 website, and there's an online submission form. They just need to fill it out, add their picture, upload that and hit submit, and it goes straight to the ADSO HR who handles ID cards. And within 2 weeks, they get their card in the mail. Standard for a picture is a red background. Crop shirt for all members, no insignia required. Usually the pictures are cropped enough that the uniform's barely visible. But they must be current with core training and in good standing, dues paid, and BQ or IQ status to get an ID card. Do not send personally identifiable information via email. So be careful on that. Check with your districts again for your, how that is to be handled. New member reports. So this is something that, new member comes in, brand new, they're not going to know how to do this. And they're certainly not going to be proficient from day one in Ox Data 2. So we need to help them out with how do they get reports done. And maybe we can do it the older method we used to do a few years back, which is using the 7029. And when you hit submit, it goes directly to the FSLIS. And that person can enter the information for that member. So when the new member becomes more proficient with Ox Data 2, with extensive training, then they can start to enter their own. But we do need to make sure that they are actually submitting hours, and we want to show them how to do that. Each time they've gone to a mission or at the end of a month, we want to talk about, what activity did they perform during that month and help them get that time recorded. And of course, the IS can show them how to log into this 7029 form off the forum's website and how to get to that online form, the version 1.1. Other than the 7029, there's a variety of different mission reports. So we'll also want to sit down with this new person, show them how to fill out these forms here. 7030 for most missions, specifically 7038 for vessel exams, and a 7046 for marine dealer visits. So although these are an older method of getting hours submitted, it's better to do it the older method until this new member is proficient in Ox Data 2. So what we covered tonight was new member essentials, accessing Ox Data 2, the Ox Officer Directory, member profile changes, uniforms and their procurement, Coast Guard Exchange and a Coast Guard Auxiliary Association, training, the real important training that's required right up front by all new members, the Core and BQC2, and others that would be required. Mission qualifications and requirements. New member mentoring and individual development plan. And again, there's more to mentoring than what I'm presenting here. This is just the tools, resources that you might not have been aware of, and how to get at those to make them useful for your new member. And other items we talked about, status changes, that's also very important to get done, and ID cards. And then member reports, helping them get through getting these reports submitted. Questions, you can email Dwayne or myself, or you can call us. And at this time, I will turn it back over to Dwayne for closing comments. But remember, this is a training session, so record your time on your 7029 or an Ox Data 2 using your 99D code. Dwayne?
Thank you, Rio. That was great. One thing to remember is Rio covered a lot of great information tonight. Like some of the things that he mentioned briefly are full presentations, like mentoring. We have a whole presentation on that. He also mentioned the mentoring guide we're working on a refresh of that guide and making some improvements and additions to it. And that, excuse me, that'll be out in the near future. Just a couple of thoughts. I always have my 2 cents I add at the end. Um, when we join a new group, sometimes it's simple, easy, and maybe even obvious. The things that can be done have a long-term impact. Think about when you joined the auxiliary and how were you embraced and taken on board and shown the ropes and made friends, or were people a little cliquish? I hope it was not the latter, but that happens all too much. So make sure you welcome new members. That's has a big bearing on if they're going to stay with us or not. We may have a great performing member, but if he doesn't feel welcome, he might just disappear in the first few months. Always offer what help you can and ask questions, because people don't always know what to ask you. And if you can't help them, direct them to somebody that can help them. Being a newbie in a semi-quasi-military organization, which was designed for the military and it was designed for content and rules and not for user friendliness. So it's slowly getting better to navigate, but it's still not easy. So always give help when you can. And again, I appreciate the critical role that mentoring plays in the success of new members. The more formal and detailed that approach is, the better outcome there'll be. We talked about uniforms. As you know, they can be expensive, especially if you're buying, your first two fairly close together. There are sources for free uniforms in every district, and sometimes more than one source. Your flotilla or your division may have one. Uh, the, the Coast Guard stations sometimes have them. I know I'm in District 1, and we have Base Boston has one they call the Lucky Bag. There's also even a free uniform item bag at the Coast Guard Academy, which isn't all that far from me. Bear in mind, though, if you go there, most of the people that go to the academy but wash out, they return their uniforms to the academy, but a lot of them are smaller sizes than we used to be, but they might have something. Rio mentioned that we have an annual uniform inspection, and some people are being a little too casual about it. You can have it done in your TROPS or your ODUs, not the AWU, and I don't believe the flight suit. But make sure you get it done, and make sure your people you work with get it done. Because if you don't, you'll go into the rear classification and lose your quals. We talked about links, to different web pages. I used to use bookmarks, and I don't know if people still use them. I've kind of fallen out from using that because I found that I use Google for my browser, and if I type in, either USCG or CG AUX, and then what I'm looking for, it usually does a really pretty good job of getting me there very quickly. I think I do CGOX directory, and it just takes me right there, and I just have to sign in. All the web browsers use an improved fuzzy logic, so they can, if you're close to what you're looking for, they can usually figure it out for you. And Rio mentioned the Auxiliary Association. Remember, it's separate from the auxiliary operational area, but that has some good benefits, and it has insurance benefits, travel benefits, discounts and services, and supports our RBS mission. And it has some things that are uniquely offered, and sometimes another frustrating thing about uniforms is things that should be standard stock are not always available in all sizes. And sometimes you can find those things at the auxiliary center store. So that's another place to check. But the most important thing is probably make sure that we make new members, a valued member of our team. So that's all we have for this session. I hope you enjoyed it. On a lot of the topics, we just got to scratch the surface. So any of those, you need more information on, go ahead and dig deeper. And if we can help, let us know. And again, we would appreciate hearing your questions and your critique of how we get. But that's it for tonight. So thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening. You take care.
Thank you.